After I finished Godzilla Breathes Again, I realized that I kind of gave myself a bit of a time crunch, and I wouldn't be able to fit all the movies all in one go. So I've been a little stressed lately, hence the hair.
Well, this is personally the most conflicted I've been in a really long time. At first I was like, yay, we're getting the movie! And then I was like, oh my god, my deadline. I took a weekend to kind of figure out what it was I wanted to do with my new timeline, my new timetable. This series is kind of hard to do already with a full-time job, and I was stressing myself out because now going from May 21st to March 26th is not something feasible for me to do. So basically what that means is this current video and the next video will be the only times I ever do these multi-movie breakdowns. Instead, I'm going to just take them a movie at a time and just kind of spread this out over a longer period so it doesn't feel as rushed. And as I've stated before, there are plenty of other people, if you want to go ahead and, well, read ahead, that have done great video essays about this entire franchise. So give these people a look. And with that, let's cover 3 movies in one video. Okay, let's go ahead and knock out this summary real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and try and keep this real short so we can keep this all in one video. If you want something a little bit more in-depth, I do recommend you check out Big Action Bill. He's got a really good video series, and he'd give you any information you'd ever want to know about any of these movies. Go check him out. With the arrival of a giant egg during a typhoon, Kumiyama, a wealthy entrepreneur, buys the egg off of a small village salvage team and attempts to turn it into an attraction to make money off of. While attempting to make further deals with the egg, 2 fairies warn of the egg's origin, Infant Island, and the byproduct of Mothra. Furthermore, they warn the egg's lover will likely be looking for some sort of food with a night out on the town in Tokyo. But this wouldn't be a Godzilla movie without radiation, would it? The eggs bring with so much radioactivity that Godzilla is reawakened and makes a beeline to the egg. Mama Moth senses a tingling and a human species to reluctantly save. Mothra arrives on the scene and lays a smackdown on the lizard, and she holds up astonishingly well. Sticky webs, gale force winds, poison powder, and some amazing feats of strength. I'm sorry, is she dragging him by his tail? Godzilla ends up gaining the upper hand, however, and gets the win over Mothra. But much like the fairies, the twins hatch and are just as formidable as Mommy Dearest, using their web attacks to secure the win over Godzilla and throw him into the drink as they swim off into the sunset. Much like our upcoming entry, Mothra existed outside of the Godzilla canon and was brought in on the heels of the successful feature, and has lived within the monster pantheon as the series' beacon of hope, which will certainly drive the stat block when we get there. I really wanted to bring down this plot when I initially wrote it, but damn, there's a lot going on here. Just do me a favor and roll with me on this. After escaping an assassination attempt, Princess Mazdalana Solano is now convinced she is a Venusian prophet. Just roll with it. She predicts the comings of Godzilla and Rodan as they duke it out over Mount Fuji, and Rodan is able to pick Godzilla up with his bird legs and then drop him on a power line. She also predicts the coming of her planet's destroyer, King Ghidorah. Humanity, feeling really screwed, turns to the Infant Island fairies to ask for Mothra's aid. They suggest the only way to overcome this issue is to have Mothra, Godzilla, and Rodan team up to fight Ghidorah. Mothra was left an only child after the last movie, so she wouldn't be strong enough to face Ghidorah on her own. At first, Mothra fails her diplomacy check. Just keep rolling with it, yes, they can talk. But after Mothra goes off to beat up Ghidorah, and just fails miserably, Godzilla and Rodan come to her aid and beat up Ghidorah in some very fun and innovative ways, which is kind of a shame considering we never really see anything like this again for the rest of the series. There are some subplots involving assassination attempts, a UFO club, and electroshock therapy, but if I tried to cover it all now in an in-depth video, this would be much, much longer. To give you some kind of idea, my first synopsis of this movie was about a page and a half. This right here was about 3 paragraphs. Aw, yeah. Finally, we're coming up to Monster Zero. This is easily one of my favorite movies in the Showa franchise. This movie had everything that made 1960s sci-fi films so much fun. We get to see aliens, full-blown fights in space, and this plot does come back later in Godzilla Final Wars for some great tongue-in-cheek nods and winks to the fans. A group of aliens called the Zillions come to Earth to request their aid from a creature referred to as Monster Zero. They believe the Earth's mightiest heroes, Godzilla and Rodan, can defeat the menace. For their help, the Zillions will give humanity the cure for cancer, so off Godzilla and Rodan go, and Monster Zero is none other than King Ghidorah himself. After a quick war that takes place in the stars, Godzilla and Rodan make quick work of King Ghidorah, as he buggers off somewhere else, who knows. Thankful for their service, humanity leaves Godzilla and Rodan on the planet. Bunch of dicks. Having held up its end of the bargain, humanity is gifted its enslavement. The cure for cancer? Totally bogus. But what we do get are King Ghidorah, Godzilla, and Rodan, two of whom are enslaved by the Zillions, as they begin to destroy Earth. Humanity says screw that and undoes the brainwashing of our boys, who promptly turn on King Ghidorah, beating him to leaving the planet once again, and destroying the Zillions for just being the worst. F*** cancer. Alright, we have 5 stat blocks to cover today. I count Rodan, King Ghidorah, Mothra in her larval form and adult form, and the Infant Island twins. And since these are my videos, damn it, I'm going to make these in terms of which one is the most easiest to make, all the way to the most complicated. So let's get it started. Before we jump into this, there's a little bit of housekeeping I think I need to make. I've yet to say it, but I will try and include it from every build from here on out. But from Kong to the Octopus to Anguirus, everyone here, save the fairies, are considered to be siege monsters, as they can rip through conventional buildings very easily. I'm fairly certain it would be an actual sin to not include the fairies and Mothra in the same video. And as if Wizards of the Coast and Toho knew I would be making these videos one day, they have an in-game counterpart with a very striking resemblance. I was initially going to say that pixies would make the most sense. However, my girlfriend, go support her, pointed out that sprites would work best. And she's totally right. It almost feels like I'm cheating. This block is perfect. They have some pretty low HP, hence why they would need to be carried around in their little box thing. I don't know what to call it. The action invisibility, while they never disappear per se, they do make it hard to be found when they don't want to be, as seen in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. But the most important thing we have here is the ability Heart Sight. With just a bit of rewording, we pretty much have a decent comparable stat block. So let's rephrase this a little bit. And with that, I think that's pretty much it. I don't see a need for them to be using any of the attack weapons this stat block is seen with, so just, don't use it. So this series was birthed from the idea that Wizards of the Coast's monsters bear a very striking resemblance to Toho's Monster Gallery. And well, at this moment, I can't see any better proof of this than the concept of Rodan and a rock. No, the bird creature. Monster Manual, page 260. I love that I don't even need to make the size upgrade here. And it has the strength score to feasibly pull off lifting Godzilla, not to mention lifting larval form Mothra on its back. What a swole bird. I could bump the AC up to 18, bring that HP up to 300. The major thing here is I think we need to give him a wing attack. And for this, I'm going to take the wing attack from an ancient copper dragon. But honestly, that's it. God, this was too easy. So, for King Ghidorah, I was originally going to use a heavily modified Hydra, boosting the AC, the HP, and adding all sorts of crazy attacks. However, I came to the realization pretty quick that the monster I was taking all these attacks from would actually serve to be a better stat block than the one I was piecemealing together. And once again, it comes in the form of a ancient bronze dragon. For what we're trying to convey, this thing is perfect. Seems to me, in order to recreate what we see on screen, we need to only get rid of repulsion breath and change shape. If we change the change shape into the ability false appearance, we can make him look like the meteor we see in the film, and you only need to flavor in some magnetic properties. Oh, I bet you thought I forgot. We are absolutely changing that lawful good to a lawful evil. D&D, for being a high fantasy game, does actually have space creatures in it, often referred to as abjurations. I'm gonna go ahead and give him that designation. And since we took something out, we're gonna be putting something back. Multiple heads. The ability that comes from the Hydra. However, we're gonna scale that back from 5 heads to 3 heads, and boosting the damage up to 148 per head lost. The heads will always also remain at 3. Can't go changing that look too much now. Other than that, I think we nailed the feel of the False King pretty well. And now for the hard parts. Godzilla's library of creatures and the Monster Manual have quite a few parallels, enough that I feel comfortable to make these videos. However, Mothra is one of the few exceptions I've run into. 3 books of monsters, no giant moth goddess with multiple forms, freaking rip off. Worst game ever. No, but seriously, let's build her. For her larval form, let's look at a young Remoraz. Not exactly as cuddly as what we're looking for, so you'll have to do your best to flavor her in terms of looks. The stat block though, it's a pretty close start. Gargantuan size upgrade as per usual, and let's change that unaligned to a lawful good. languages? Lamp? Nah, we're just gonna go ahead and leave that blank. And I think for what we see, I think it would make sense for us to drop the strength down to 10 to make her more wise with that 18, so we're gonna go ahead and swap those. We're also gonna boost her intelligence to 10 as well. Since we never really see Mothra being a heated creature, the heated body ability can go as well. This will also apply to her bite attack, as we'll replace the fire damage with, let's call it poison. But of course, we need to give her her ultimate weapon, the web attack. Taken from Kamunka, I mean a giant spider's stat block. And I think that'll just about cover it for her larval form. We'll see a bit more stat upgrades as we go into the adult form. Oh boy, here we go. We're gonna be building this from the ground up. Let's start by boosting what we see from the adult Remoraz. We're gonna change that AC from 17 to 20. And because she's a bit of a squish, let's go ahead and make that 280 for her max HP. And since she's flying now, we're gonna go ahead and take the speed from our buddy the Rock. 20 feet on land and 120 feet in the air seems very appropriate. I think the idea of keeping her wise and intelligent makes the most sense, so we'll swap the adult Remoraz stats to reflect this. Credit where it's due, this dragging another monster by its tail feat. We're gonna go ahead and just say that she rolled a natural 20 because we never see her do anything like this for the rest of the franchise, unfortunately. For her bite attack, let's go ahead and continue to take from the Remoraz. And once again, we're gonna swap the fire damage to poison. Let's also get rid of this nasty bugger here because of, PTSD. We also need to give her a wing attack since we do see her tossing Godzilla around with it. These will be what's called legendary action, allowing her to basically make 3 attacks in any order outside of her turn. And since we did use an ancient bronze dragon earlier, let's go ahead and take that from him for her wing attack. Her yellow spore attack was actually really hard for me. I've never even really encountered a Myconoid in one of my own games, let alone actually heard about them used in other media. I even ran to Zugtomi in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, which is kind of like an appendix of the monster manual, but her spores don't really reflect what we see here. However, a Myconoid Sovereign on page 232 of the monster manual is the closest thing we see, pacifying spores. With the target being stunned, she could make other attacks and in theory kill her target. As for her abilities, I like Heal Self as seen in the Unicorn stat block to accommodate for her needing to take a break from time to time. And finally, we should probably cover her reincarnation. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, page 199, the Phoenix. With just a little bit of rewording, we change how many eggs there are, and instead of making it weigh about 5 pounds, we're gonna make it weigh about 5 tons. And instead of appearing right at the feet of anybody who finds it, it'll appear on Infant Island. And I think that's pretty acceptable. I do believe this will wrap it up here.
Your world is doomed. At least, that's what the local loony claims. They prophesied that big changes are coming. First from a dormant volcano nearby, and out of the gaping maw springs Rodan. With its powerful wings, it tosses cities aside like wind may push kindling, proving themselves. The loony makes another prediction. A destroyer from beyond the stars has hidden itself. The lovely meteor shower from the night before was merely the aftermath of the creature, the king of destruction. Ghidorah is on its way. The only chance for your players is on an uncharted island miles away. They must speak to the harbinger of peace, the twins, who may be very reluctant to save civilization. They have Mothra, a creature with devastating power. Will she be strong enough to take down the 2 major threats facing your world?
That'll be it for Mothra, Ghidorah, and Rodan for now. What do you think? Did I do the king and queen justice? Have you ever made your own creature from the ground up? Tell me what you think in the comments. As always, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me to the very end of what I'm guessing is a much, much longer video. But next week, I think I'm due for some vacation time. What do you think? A tropical island vacation sounds appealing, especially during a global pandemic. Hope no one has a sea fish allergy as we cover Ebra, Horror of the Deep, and we take a peek into fatherhood with Son of Godzilla. Make sure to take care of yourselves out there, guys.